Hello everyone, this is Crypto BitLaw, here with another blockchain legal brief, and today we're going to discuss how an Ethereum developer was recently imprisoned for 5 years for aiding North Korea in evading sanctions with cryptocurrency. But before we dive in, please, if you enjoy this content, hit that like button and subscribe to our channel. And with that said, let's jump right on in. Alright, so here we can see Decrypt reports that Ethereum dev Virgil Griffith gets 5 years in prison for North Korea trip. Griffith was arrested in 2019 and charged with conspiring to help North Koreans evade sanctions via cryptocurrency. They say, the brief summary is that former Ethereum developer Virgil Griffith was sentenced to 63 months in prison. Griffith was charged with conspiring to help North Koreans evade U.S. sanctions via cryptocurrency. Virgil Griffith, an Ethereum developer who was arrested following a trip to North Korean capital Pyongyang in 2019, was sentenced to 63 months in prison and fined $100,000. Griffith traveled to Pyongyang to give a talk about Ethereum and cryptocurrency at a blockchain conference. He was arrested in November 2019 and charged with conspiracy to violate the International Emergency Economic Powers Act, accused of helping North Koreans learn how to use cryptocurrency to evade U.S. sanctions. The developer also traveled to North Korea without permission from the U.S. government. U.S. Attorney Geoffrey S. Berman previously alleged in a letter that Griffith, quote, provided highly technical information to North Korea, knowing that this information could be used to help North Korea launder money and evade sanctions. Griffith pleaded guilty to the single charge of conspiracy in September 2021 in a deal with federal prosecutors. At just over 5 years, his sentence was at the low end of the guidelines, and he could have received up to 6.5 years. At the sentencing, the 39-year-old Griffith said that he, quote, genuinely, arrogantly, and erroneously thought he knew better, according to a report from the Daily Beast. Griffith added, "Everyone warned me. This was a terrible idea." The Daily Beast reporter Jose Pagalaria tweeted that U.S. District Judge P. Kevin Castile appeared to be particularly irritated when handing down the sentence. Castile said that Griffith intentionally sought to help North Koreans use cryptocurrency to evade sanctions. Quote, "There's a narrative that Virgil Griffith is a kind and gentle man who merely wanted to speak at a conference and was persecuted for his actions," Castile said, according to the report. "Those are not the facts. That's not what happened. Virgil Griffith hoped to come home a crypto hero." Griffith, who previously worked as a research scientist at the Ethereum Foundation, received support from many notable figures in the crypto industry following his arrest, including from Ethereum creator Vitalik Buterin. So let's turn now to the Daily Beast article and see some of the more potent points from this article. They say, under the bite of harsh international sanctions, North Korea has been hacking cryptocurrency-related entities for years to generate revenue for the regime. From 2019 to 2020 alone, Kim's hackers stole $316 million worth of virtual assets to fund North Korea's weapons program and ballistic missile programs, according to a UN investigation. And we've touched and reported on this before, how there have been reports of North Korea funding its missile program and its nuclear program with cryptocurrency. And so we know that they're using hacking in order to generate some of these funds. And I guess it fits the bill that they've got this guy, Virgil Griffith, this Ethereum dev, aiding the North Koreans who were chomping at the bit, try to figure out how to use the cryptocurrency that was garnered through nefarious means, launder that, and then actually use that clean money in order to fund these programs. And so it's just funny to me how it comes full circle now. Going a little more in depth about this situation and how it played out, they say, according to investigators, Griffith wanted to travel to Pyongyang blockchain and cryptocurrency conference. Before I continue, I think it's funny that the most reclusive and restrictive nation on the planet has a blockchain and crypto conference. I wonder who would speak at that, but I guess here we could see this dude Griffith is the type of person that would speak at that. I wonder who else would want to actually speak at that. Maybe experts from other nations that really aren't quite as hesitant as the United States to engage with the North Koreans, but that's besides the point. Let's continue. He wanted to travel to Pyongyang Blockchain and Crypto Conference in the spring of 2019, but was told not to do so by the U.S. State Department. Okay, so this isn't boding well for him. He asked permission and got a no-no from the State Department. Instead of staying put, Griffith traveled to China and made his way into neighboring authoritarian country anyway. Okay, this is even worse. I mean, he circumvented it because I guess he couldn't get a visa or whatnot directly to North Korea, and he didn't have permission, so he went to China and then used China as a backdoor into North Korea. Not good. While there, he, quote, participated in discussions regarding using cryptocurrency technologies to evade sanctions and launder money. Special agents at the FBI saw that as a clear violation of the International Emergency Economic Powers Act. According to his lawyers, after his North Korean speaking engagement, Griffith actually went straight to the U.S. Embassy in Singapore, where he was residing at the time, to tell them about the experience. He chose to meet with the FBI in Puerto Rico and San Francisco. But after extensive talks, the feds instead surprised the technologist by arresting him at the Los Angeles International Airport on Thanksgiving Day 2019, while Griffith was boarding a flight to Baltimore to spend the holiday with his parents and sister. He was indicted months later on a single count of violating presidential executive orders aimed at blocking North Korea from international banking system as punishment for its repeated threats to nuke the United States. The arrest immediately generated criticism as the exceedingly eccentric and devoted community of cryptocurrency enthusiasts cast the prosecution as a crackdown on free speech. All right, so here's a copy of the law that he was pleaded guilty to violating. It's a 50 U.S. Code, section 1708, and in particular, this subsection, actions to address economic or industrial espionage in cyberspace. I think the more pertinent part down here, section B, pertains to the imposition of sanctions, and subsection 1, in general, the president may, pursuant to the International Emergency Economic Powers Act, that's what we're talking about here, block and prohibit all transactions in all property and interest in property of each person described in paragraph 2, down here, if such property and interest in property are in the United States, come with the United States, or come within the possession or control of a United States person. Persons described. A person described in this paragraph is a foreign person the president determines knowingly requests, engages in, supports, facilitates, or benefits from the significant appropriation through economic or industrial espionage in cyberspace of technology or proprietary information developed in the United States. So this, taken together in pari materia with the entirety of this act, gives broad latitude to the prosecutors to construe his actions, Virgil Griffith, the defendant, to have violated this particular act. And I think that it's telling here that this case didn't even have to go to trial. This defendant, Virgil Griffith, the dev, pleaded guilty. And so I think that his lawyers counseled him and said, hey, they've got you dead to rights. You know, this law is so broad that your actions can almost inevitably be construed by any rational trier of fact that you are determined to have violated the provisions of this law. And so I feel like his strategy was to plead guilty and try to seek some sort of mercy and sentencing from the court. But I mean, 5 years, I mean, that's not slim pickings. I mean, he could have gotten up to 6.5, I think, but I mean, 5 certainly isn't anything to balk at. And as noted earlier in this article, the judge, he was irritated when he sentenced him. You know, it seemed like he knew, based on his actions, that this guy knew what he was doing. I mean, first and foremost, he was told by the State Department not to go to North Korea. And what did he do? He did it anyway, and he did it in a sly, kind of sleazy, underhanded way where he went first into China and then used China as a backdoor into North Korea. And then after he got out and spoke at this conference, I guess he had a change of heart and went straight to the State Department and tried to do a mea culpa, but after they dug into it, they weren't having it. And then they slapped him with the indictment, and here we are a few years later, and he's going to do 5 years. So I guess let this be a warning. I mean, the powers that be, Johnny Law, is taking this sort of action very seriously. And when it comes to cryptocurrency, I know it started, about a decade ago, where it was just a bunch of nerds sitting around and cypherpunks and libertarians just kind of debating and exchanging in Bitcoin and, doing $26,000 Bitcoin pizzas or whatnot. But now this is serious business, as we could see how North Korea is using funds derived from nefarious means in order to fund their missile programs. And so aiding these people, the North Koreans that is, in laundering and cleaning the funds garnered through nefarious means is certainly a big no-no in the eyes of the United States government. So I guess to anyone out there considering doing anything similar, watch your back and think twice before you engage in this type of activity. So with that said, I thought this was an interesting story. I hope you guys enjoyed this content. If you did, please hit that like button, subscribe to our channel so we can continue to grow and, get these sorts of stories out to a wider audience and just kind of spread more knowledge and information about what's going on in the space and new developments in digital assets and cryptocurrency. So with that said, thanks again for watching, and we'll see you all in the next video.